Hello guys, it is that time of the year again. 2021 had a lot of good to great games that came out this year. So many that I had about 15, 16 games that I could have put on this list. But on the flip side of that, there wasn't that one game that stood out amongst the pack, at least in my opinion. So this list was much tougher to put together than maybe any list I've ever done. But without further ado, these are my top 10 games of 2021. At number 10, I got Psychonauts 2, a game that I wasn't necessarily super excited for going in. I had never played the original game. I tried playing the original game. It aged poorly. I couldn't get into it. So I didn't really have like high expectations or high excitement going into this game. But once I started playing it, I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the story building, the gameplay, the different abilities you had. I really did enjoy it a lot, which was probably one of my biggest surprises of 2021. Maybe it's not a surprise for somebody who played the original Psychonauts and loved it from then and were super excited for this one. They probably weren't surprised at how good it was, but this was just one of those games that caught me by surprise. The subject matter they deal with, it plays kind of like a kid's game, but it's not a kid's game. The subject matter they deal with, it's very mature. They do a good job of doing that within the game. The level designs are fantastic. The voice acting is great. And just everything about it I enjoyed all the way through. And because of that, I do think it'd be cool if they did a remake of the original game. Since it has aged so poorly, I think that could be something that could potentially do well, especially with the success of the second game. But we'll see where it goes. This game I really enjoyed, and that is why it is at number 10. At number 9, I got Returnal, a game that isn't really my style of game usually. I'm not huge on roguelike or roguelite games in general, but Returnal did win me over time, and even more so while processing the game over the year. I did have my issues with the game at first, such as doors not opening and ruining my runs. This has since been patched, and then the game kind of going through full runs while just giving me pistols, which was really frustrating, especially if I went really deep into a run and I was still just getting pistols. But what this game did have was amazing atmosphere and mystery that I really respect and love about the game. The parts in the house are just pure horror atmosphere, which I just love so much, and this helps break up the running and shooting galleries you will do the rest of the game, and these house sections are also where you'll get a good chunk of the story. The alien designs in the game are very vast and very creative, and the level designs throughout the game are amazing, even if they do look to screw you over sometimes. But just like most roguelike or roguelite games, as you play more and more, you will get better at it. You will get better gear to help combat the enemies, and sometimes just get better luck on loot drops to help also. So basically, if you are a sci-fi fan or a sci-fi person that loves to unwrap a mystery to find out what is going on, or if you just like roguelike games in general, then Returnal is right up your alley. Number 8 for me is Lost Judgment. This studio just keeps finding ways to tell great stories every time they release a game. This story wasn't quite as strong as Judgment, but that was one of their best games in my opinion. So that isn't an indictment on this game, as much as it was going to be tough to just live up to the story of Judgment in the first place, but this game did give it one hell of a try. This game tackled a much more serious storylines in terms of school bullying and how bullying in school can lead to suicide and what happens if teachers, principals, and fellow students alike turn a blind eye to it. So basically the story is as school bullies, both present and past, turn up dead, it is up to Yagami to uncover the truth behind these murders and find out who is behind them. Now, outside the main story itself, I did give Lost Judgment a little bit of tough love in my review, because I feel like their games are so popular now that they could have voice side missions no problem, and just that they should change up their side activities that you can find in the buildings throughout the game, because a lot of them, a lot of times, are the same in every game between Judgment and Yakuza. But the side missions that are there, the mini games they have throughout the game, including the big side mission that takes place in the school, gives the players enough content to do outside the main story to keep them busy and entertained for many hours. If you love Judgment, if you love the Yakuza series, then there is really no reason you shouldn't play this game. I'm excited to see what Ryoga Kotaku Studio does next, as they are one of my favorite developers in the business, and they have already announced a sequel to Yakuza Like a Dragon, and a title unconnected to the Yakuza or Judgment franchises that I just can't wait to see. At number 7, I have Kena, Bridge of Spirits. Kena is one of the most beautiful games of the year by far, if not the most beautiful. And what is even more impressive is the game is made by a small team of developers, about 15 or so developers. The game follows Kena, who sets out on a journey to help troubled spirits pass over to the other side with the help of her adorable friends, funnily enough called Rot. The story of Kena is very heartwarming, and I really enjoyed it overall. The cutscenes were top-notch, were almost like Disney movie-esque quality in some places. In terms of the combat, it wasn't really anything special per se, but it does give the player some nice abilities as you progress through the game, and, like I said, some cute friends to help her along the way. This game also has puzzle sections that helps to break up the combat sections, and they do a great job of keeping the puzzles fresh and switching it up so they don't get stale. The puzzles is where the Rot do start to come in and help a lot. A lot of what the Rot do with their abilities are what you use to help complete the puzzles. So the more Rot you have, the better. This is one of those games that is kind of like a kid's game, but could be very difficult if you don't really know what you're doing, because the enemies do hit pretty hard at normal or higher difficulties. This was another game that was a surprise for me this year. Now, I knew the game looked beautiful just by watching the trailers. If the trailers are to believe sometimes, it's hard to know these days. But I still didn't expect a game made by this small of a team to be and look just this beautiful. To me, Kena is a must-play for both kids and adults alike, and Ember Lab is a developer to keep your eye on in the future. At number 6, I have Resident Evil Village. Easily one of the best horror games of the year, which was pretty easy because there wasn't really very many of them. But it was also a fantastic game from start to finish. The horror atmosphere in this game was top-notch, and it told a great continuation of Ethan's story from Resident Evil 7 as he is trying to save his daughter Rose, who was taken by something or someone somewhere in the village, and it's up to him to find out where. The combat is very similar to Resident Evil 7, so if you enjoyed the combat in 7, you'll be right at home here. Now, this game, in my opinion, wasn't even remotely as scary as Resident Evil 7, but it did strike a nice balance between horror and action that I really enjoyed. Just like 7, a lot of this game is spent solving puzzles that Ethan must solve to move on to the next part of the game, and to get the pieces needed to save Rose. The bosses in the game are pretty awesome overall. Some are more action-based like Salvatore Moreau and Heisenberg, and others lean towards more the horror aspect like the Puppet Master and Lady Dimitrescu. So the game does have a little bit for everyone. Capcom has been on a roll with their franchises for the last few years, and I hope they continue that trend upwards. I know there is talk about Resident Evil 4 remake, and I can't wait for that if it becomes reality, or if they just move on to Resident Evil 9. I'm super excited about that, but whatever they do, I have faith that they will do it justice. Now, from one of the best horror games of the year to the best horror game of the year, number 5 is Little Nightmares 2. This game is just so innovative with its level design and boss design that I could just really talk about it forever, but I will just leave it at it is incredible. TARSIER Studios did an amazing job of building off the first game, which was already really good, to make it even better, and that should really be commended. This game has a lot of creepiness to it, but for some people it can also be seen as cute, so it kind of has it all going for it. Some of the puzzles in the game can be very difficult sometimes to do, especially when you have to deal with mannequins and flashlights in a certain part of the game. But the puzzles are also very well thought out and just so innovative that they are a treat to do for the 8 hours this game gives you. The bosses in the game are just so cool and creepy, from the stretchy neck grandma, as I called her, to the gigantic dude that crawls on the ceiling. This game just keeps throwing different things at you, and from one level to the next, nothing ever feels the same. Every level feels like its own thing, and I really respect that about this game. So, if you love survival horror games, or just horror games in general, this game's a must play. Stop what you're doing, go play it right now, you will not be disappointed. Number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy. I wasn't really sure what to expect from this game after the debacle of a game that Avengers was. And since they were both published by Square Enix, I was hoping Guardians didn't share that same fate, and I'm happy to report it is the opposite of Avengers in every way. A very good, funny, and heartwarming story with an amazing soundtrack straight from the 80s. This was another one of those games with multiple good and pretty level designs, with a lot of funny dialogue between characters. In this game, the Guardians have just formed, and they have to learn to work together as a team as they try to save the universe from a massive threat. The combat is like a run-and-gun kind of shooter with special abilities that both Peter and his teammates can do that deal big damage that are all controlled by the players with a button push when those abilities are ready. As you go throughout the game, you will unlock cool skins that each character can wear that is unique to outfits worn in the comics, which is always an added bonus in my book. I hope this game does get a sequel. It deserves a sequel. The storytelling in this game was top notch, the voice acting was amazing, and it lets you fly the ship and shoot things in space. So that alone gets a flarking A+ from me. At number 3, I have my most surprising game of the year, It Takes Two. Now, maybe I really shouldn't have been surprised because A Way Out, which was Hazelight Studios' first game, was also pretty good. But this game just reached that next level that I just really wasn't prepared, wasn't ready for. The level designs were incredible throughout the entire game. The amount of gaming genres they went through in this game were incredible, from just a normal platformer, to puzzle game, to dungeon crawler, to a fighter. The game just pretty much had it all. And to be able to play the game with a friend in co-op is just the cherry on top of this amazing game. The mini games that you will play all the way through the game are incredible. Things like whack-a-mole and full games of chess, just to name a few, that you will play throughout the game. Now note, if you don't know much about the game, it is forced co-op, so you cannot play the game solo, so keep that in mind. But finding someone to play this game with is so worth it to go through this touching, funny, and amazing story together. Now, the top 3 games on this list were all very strong contenders for Game of the Year, in my opinion, so it was a hard call between the 3 of them, so a judgment call had to be made. But regardless, It Takes Two is worthy of your time and a must-play for everyone. At number 2, I have the best RPG of the year by far, Tales of Arise. Now, I give Bandai a tough time all the time as a publisher when it comes to games that they make that are based on animes. And while this game isn't really based on anime, it's more anime style, they still hit on this one in every way, and they should be putting this kind of love and effort into their anime games. The story follows a character whose planet has been enslaved by another planet, and it is up to him to save the people of the planet and defeat the evil that has caused this to happen in the first place. Now, it is a very long story. It took me about 70 hours to beat, and I loved it all the way through. The combat in this game is very simplistic. It's kind of a lot like Guardians of the Galaxy, where you have a team and you control one character, but you can still hit some buttons and other characters will do special abilities. The difference between this and Guardians is you can pick what character you want to play as in Tales of Arise. If you want to fight as a side character, you can. You just go into the menu, you change the character, you can play as a side character while the AI controls the main character. The story in this game all the way through is fantastic. In some parts, it's just complete badassery, and the game makes you feel that way. The voice acting in this game is really good, which is necessary because there is a ton of conversation that goes on between all the characters throughout the game. I had never played a Tales game before this. I hadn't even watched anybody play a Tales game before this. And Arise has me wanting to go back and play all the Tales games just to see what I had missed. Because I have heard good things about them, I just haven't had a chance to play them. But if you love the Tales games or you love RPGs in general, play this game right now. Stop watching and go play it. Well, wait for number 1 and then go play it. And last but not least, my number 1 game of 2021 is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. An amazing game from start to finish. There wasn't really 1 second of this game that I didn't enjoy. From the level designs to the graphics to the trove of weapons you get throughout the game, this game has a ton of fun to be had, and there is not one dull moment. The new character to the franchise, Rivet, voiced by Jennifer Hale, was a very welcome addition to the franchise and, in my opinion, a home run. The actual rift mechanic in this game is awesome, and I really loved how they used it for this game's grappling hook ability and how the rifts are used in various puzzles throughout the game. All the planets in the game all have unique level designs that make them all feel different, so you'll never feel like the game is getting repetitive, which is important, because I feel like sometimes, a game is really good, but a lot of their level designs, they look the same, and even if you're having fun, they will start to get repetitive over time and wear on you over time. So it is good that INSOMNIAC was able to give unique level designs, keep it fresh, make every place feel different, so it always felt like every single planet was almost like a new game. I went through in this game and got the Platinum Trophy, and while it's not necessarily a hard Platinum per se, it really isn't, I had fun all the way through, and it never felt like a chore, which is a mark of a fantastic game. All in all, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is another home run exclusive for Sony and INSOMNIAC, and I can't wait to see what comes next with the Ratchet & Clank franchise. And that was my top 10 games of 2021. What was your top 10 games? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Put that in the comment section down below. Beyond that, if you like the content we've been putting out, the reviews, playthroughs, all that good stuff, please hit the subscribe button. We do appreciate it. Any kind of feedback you can give us will be appreciated. 2022 is shaping up to be a fantastic year, maybe one of the best years in recent memory, at least since 2018, and I cannot wait. So I'll see you back here next year for the best games of 2022. Until then, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.